tell you a story about a little mouse who owns a little blouse. Sorry about that. I'm just eager to share my musical talents with you, like you dear readers out there. Anyways, my name is Leonard Patterson, and I am a spider. And what is like being a spider? Well, to be honest, it's rather boring and dull as I always get tossed aside and beaten by a newspaper and welding old ladies. It's honestly just downright depressing to know how badly spiders we are treated at times. I mean, all I want to do with my life is to be a singer. Is that so much to ask? Like a lot of spiders, I have been small, incredibly dark, damp, and burrow underground, which is always dark. There's never ever been a light which makes my days, makes me add a little extra sad. I hate how badly I am treated by humans, and I really hate it. They treat me like species absolute scum. I mean, I know we spiders aren't always the best looking things in the world, but come on. I sometimes wonder about life like that if I was a human instead of a spider. I'd probably be the world's famous musician living up in the Vinewoods Hills by now. Now because living in underground and burrow sucks, I often sneaks into people's houses in order to make myself a new home. This doesn't always last very long as I soon chased away out by a broomstick. How sad. Sorry, I got a little something in my eye. Anyways, I often try my best to find somewhere in the house to hide during the days so that humans don't see me. I usually try to hide away from small darkened area where humans can't see me. I usually try to hide away in small dark areas of the houses like the basement or the attic. It usually doesn't take long until I'm discovered by the owners of the house who promptly throw me out of the window or at least try their best to kill me. Now that I'm a pretty stupid spider, I continue to visit people's houses despite humans proving me time and time again, and they still hate me. I still come and continue to sneak in until today. It all started a horrible stormy night in the middle of May. I was just chilling outside my freezer with my spidery legs off when I noticed that the front door to a house nearby had been left open. I scurried across the wet and smelly garden until I made my way inside the house and then hurried up to the living room, and then crawled up to a nearby window which still overlooked the television. Not even my 2 minutes after my arrival, I heard loud voices coming from the front door. "I can't believe you let the front door open, Ken," one of the voices said, sounded like an unfamiliar people entirely in the living room. One of the people had a huge rugby player with a serious hatred for bees and other insects named Ken, while the other one was a hardcore chewist addicted, who of course was a serious weirdo named Binky the Clown, and the pair began moaning about how they lost a game at a bingo go to a frickin' bee. "I'm telling you, Binky, those balls must have been rigged," Kenny said while making his cups of hot tea in the kitchen. "Well, that sounds like a great idea, sticky old wallet, if I do say so myself," Binky said as he sat his butt down on the sofa and switched on TV with the remote. While Binky did, I scanned around the house with my eyes and saw that another pair appeared to be struggling the musicians. There were also instruments all over the place, and there was a picture of local karaoke club placed there on the wall above the fireplace. So as I was saying earlier, Binky switched over the channel to Disney Junior and saw a brand new episode of Handy Mandy was coming on in 10 minutes after an episode of PJ Masks. "Hey Ken, come here quick, Handy Mandy's starting in 10 minutes, Binky proclaimed happily as Ken entered the living room carrying the 2 cups of steaming hot tea. He was also carrying a huge bowl of Doritos and another bowl to the brim of guacamole. I was very confused, as spiders tend to be. What was I confused about? Well, my dear friends, I was confused as why Disney Junior would be having a brand new episode of Handy Mandy when that show ended decades ago. It ended just before Playhouse Disney changed into Disney Junior. I wonder what the story was behind so far. For the uncultured swines out there, Handy Mandy is an animated show set in a fictional town of a sheetrock works, and of course the show centers around a repairman named Manny, who owns a repair shop along with a small group of anthropomorphic talking toons. Of course, Manny is often annoyed by the antics of sinister, but rather dumb, Mr. Lopart, who owns a candy store with his dumb cat named Fluffy. I crawled my way on top of the sofa in order to get a better look at the television. Luckily, Ken and Blinky didn't seem to notice as I began munching on some of Ken's Doritos, which he didn't really seem to notice. "Hey, look, it's starting," Binky proclaimed while dancing like a madman as the announcer said. "Up next is a super special brand new episode of Handy Mandy. Oh, and by the way, sit down, you dumb clown." The announcer's rude words were so offensive that it actually caused Binky to topple back onto the sofa. "I guess he's just a clown who picks up on me and then each time I'm down, ha." The episode began with the theme song, which was quite frankly wasn't right. The people singing in the background were replaced by a big shock when Mandy said good morning to Kelly, which she responds by giving Mandy the middle finger. When Mr. Lopart was being shown struggling to get this door open, the knob came off as normal. Mr. Lopart then threw the doorknob at Manny's head, which caused it to end up knocking him out. During the pair, where everyone else was amazed at Mandy's tools, they know what to do. When there was no music, it was just an awkward silence. Loud distracting cough noises could be heard in the play in the background. Then the episode started with a big title being showed on screen, and it's read, Mr. Lopart's Sadness. The episode began with Mr. Lopart arriving at his candy store one morning as he tried his best to open the door, but couldn't open it or move. Oh, come on, please open, Mr. Lopart pleaded as he tried his best to get the door to open, but it just wouldn't budge. Mr. Lopart then sighed in a small sigh. He realized that it was going to have to get this door open, he's going to need Mandy's help. At Manny's repair shop, Manny and his tools were down Scrabble as Mr. Lopart rudely barged in without even knocking on the door. What do you want, Mr. Lopart? Manny asked in a gruff voice that didn't sound like himself. Manny also, for some reason, didn't have a Spanish accent. No, instead he sounded like Jackseptice's guy. Well, Manny, I was wondering if you could help me fix my door, Mr. Lopart asked as Manny yelled, Heck no, I'm busy, Mr. Lopart. You annoyed the bald-headed freak? Manny then proceeded to beat Mr. Lopart to a pulp before throwing him out onto the streets. Manny walked out of the store and forced Mr. Lopart's face to face him. Consider this a warning. You ever interrupt me and my tools when we play Scrabble again, I will kill you, Manny warned as he made his way back to the repair shop. Mr. Lopart made his way down the busy streets of Sheet Rock Works. What a dumb name for a town, am I right? Also, Ken and Binky didn't seem to notice that I was sitting up on the episode, as they were busy browsing for their phones. Oh, what simps! Mr. Lopart then decided to go into a nearby IKEA to ask if they have a building supplies. Also, Fluffy ran across the street and ended up getting ran over and killed by a car. Mr. Lopart, for whatever some reason, didn't seem to notice and made his way across the street. Arriving at IKEA, Mr. Lopart made his way on top of the building of the floor, and of course which they kept all their bedding supplies. For what some other reason, Mr. Lopart ended up getting lost in the store. He spent several hours upon hours trying to look for his way out. He couldn't do it for some whatever reason. It wasn't until an hour after closing that he realized something. Of course, he just looked around. Mr. Lopart was then confronted by a big, muscular, incredibly dangerous security guard named Big Tim and Jim. Big Tim Jim was a huge man with an even larger temper. Big Jim Tim appeared right in front of Mr. Lopart and asked, What are you doing in my store? I got lost, Mr. Lopart explained to Big Jim. You got lost? Big Jim didn't seem to buy Mr. Lopart's story at all. Instead, he had Mr. Lopart taken downtown to the local police station. At the police station where Mr. Lopart was interrogated by commissions, Sam and Max had demanded to know where Mr. Lopart had hid all the diamonds. Diamonds? What are you talking about, officer? Mr. Lopart said as he was given a massive slap across the face by Sam's gloved hand. We are asking questions here, Mr. Lopart. Sam barked harshly as he got Mr. Lopart thrown into a cell. The episode then cut back to before coming back to the show where Mr. Lopart leaving the police station, covered in ketchup. I certainly hoped it was ketchup anyway, because it looked like a bunch of hot air to me. Mr. Lopart made his way down the streets to his candy store and saw that Manny was busy repairing the doorknob. Mr. Lopart tried his best to thank Manny, but he was having none of it. Look, don't worry about Mr. Lopart, Manny said before continuing with, Now, if you could please leave me alone for the rest of the day, I have a very important meeting today. Manny then proceeded to explain to Mr. Lopart that he was at a meeting, some sort of busy, but important and busy and dull, from the Menominee Northwestern Medical School, who wished for the interview for Manny's admission for the university. And he looked down right depressed, but he seemed to have knowledge of the death of his beloved cat. Of course, that was when Mr. Lopart was making his way into the candy store. He then decided to order to make it truly things up to Manny. He would prepare Manny a huge platter of cookies in order to say that he's sorry. 2 hours later, Mr. Lopart is being showed headed towards the repair shop while carrying a huge baking tray full to the brim with freshly baked biscuits. Manny, meanwhile, was being interviewed in the Northwestern Illuminati. We just want to know how you get better. or one of the Illuminati said as they gave Manny a friendly tap on the stomach. These interviews are something of a formality. I think it's crucial, but however, we minded the people to get to know about the sugar catastrophe backbones, Manny said confidently, as the head of the group said, "Well, Manny, I think Northwestern would be delighted to have someone like you at their university." Just as Manny was about to shake Lonnie's hand, the door swung open as Mr. Lopart came in, holding a baking tray. "Hey, Manny, I've brought you sugar honey tea," Mr. Lopart cried as he ended up tipping over his shoes and completely forgotten to tie them for some reason. He ended up dropping the huge flask of boiling hot tea onto the interviews. Manny then yelled, "Mr. Lopart!" "Oh dear," Mr. Lopart said as he finally reached the cold hard ground. The episode then cuts off to a brief show clip of the panda trying to sell you some biscuits. "Me want biscuits," the panda said. The episode then showed another brief clip which had a man mumbling something under his breath. Animated squirrel hopped onto the table and which said, "And there is something you'll really enjoy. I want to punch that annoying frickin' squirrel right in its mouth. It was so damn annoying." The episode finally came to the interviews being taken into the hospital, and now how burning Mr. Lopart was yelling at Manny for a good half an hour. "I'm sorry, Manny, it won't happen again," Mr. Lopart pleaded as Manny responded with, "Oh, I know it won't. I'm going to make sure of it." "What do you mean?" Mr. Lopart asked as the Manny ordered Squeeze and Dusty to light the lamps and not by the rat. "Hey, come on, we're all going to Manny to tell me." "Manny," Mr. Lopart pleaded as Manny let out a massive fart that caused Mr. Lopart's candy store to be burnt down to the ground by Squeeze and Dusty. Mr. Lopart sank to his knees and began sobbing heavily into his arms. Turner and Pat then told Mr. Lopart that they had killed his mother, Miss Lopart, in the drive up near Walnut Pass. "How could this happen to me?" Mr. Lopart asked as he was being thrown into the wall by Manny. "I'll tell you why," Manny said before continuing with, "You annoy me constantly. Every single day that you complain to me about your problems, expect me to fix them. You ruined my chance of going to Northwestern." Manny then went on, "I give you one simple order, Mr. Lopart, to stay out of my way, and just for one night, just for one night. That's all. Not 2, not 69, no bloody 1,000, just one." Manny then turned to Sace's toolbox and said, "Well, guys, give her from Mr. Lopart the boot." "The what?" Mr. Lopart was confused as Manny made his way down the streets, laughing evilly as he did so. All the tools ganged up on Mr. Lopart and proceeded to throw him across the room and landed his way towards the bottom of the large freeway. Mr. Lopart then huddled over to the ball and began sobbing as the cars and buses could be heard riding above them. Mr. Lopart began to think back on his life back in the Sheetrock Hills and realized that he was always been nothing but a burden to Manny and Kelly. He was even a burden to his own dear cat Fluffy, who he missed terribly. Even though he didn't know knowledge about the beloved pet's death at first, perhaps Mr. Lopart in his way he'll know. His chance to make one history, a chance to find a house worthy enough to sail a hero's trophy. Mr. Lopart had moved to Lost Heaven, where he got a well-paying job in a shipping company. He was eventually promoted to head of the company. After a while, Mr. Lopart managed to forget about this old life back in the Sheetrock Hills and began to live a normal life. He even went on to buy himself a lovely, cozy cottage in the countryside. Sorry, folks, but this apparently can't last. One more warm afternoon, Mr. Lopart was being shown watering his own garden with a small red and white car pulled up in the pavement area beside him. Two familiar faces emerged from the car and walked up to Mr. Lopart. "Mr. Lopart?" one of the people asked as Mr. Lopart turned to see around and asked, "Yes, can I help?" Mr. Lopart's face was white as the two people were being shown none other than Turner and Squeeze. "Handy Mandy sends his regards," Mr. Turner said as Squeeze pulled up a large shotgun and shot Mr. Lopart in the face, killing him instantly. The last shot of the episode was Mr. Lopart's head dead on the garden floor of the pool of his own blood, while Turner and Squeeze sped down the streets of the car. With that, the episode ends with the normal credits. I have to say that I was quite frankly confused, but a tad a little bit annoyed by the episode. All it did was just serve a good torture for the episode from Mr. Lopart. It was also sad and made me cry into Ken's cup of tea. That's when I made the big mistake. I ended up falling onto the sofa in a bowl of guacamole. and I was then scooped up by a massive Dorito and by Binky as Ken cried, "Wait, stop, Bee!" It's a spider, actually, I said as I dropped into the table where Binky were the two began screaming like a madman. It can't talk, Binky proclaimed before fainting onto the ground. Ken then proceeded to run upstairs. When he came back, he placed his hand on two large brown boots. Ben then began stomping at the table and trying his darn best to kill me. I then held up my 2 8 legs up and proceeded and said, "Wait, stop, please don't kill me." "Why not?" Ken asked. I responded with, "Well, maybe I could sing a little song to show my appreciation for you for letting me stay at your house." "You could sing?" Binky asked as he got up on the floor. "Sure can," I proclaimed as I pulled out a small guitar and began singing a little tune. Well, as I sang, in reality, it lasted for a good 5.5 hours. Let me tell you a story about a little mouse. I ended up singing that signature to them. Ken and Binky agreed to let me live. The following day, Ken and Binky were busy going ready on a road trip to Las Venturas. Now that, whatever that was cleared up, they were planning on to talking to me about that I was spider-napped by Uncle Ian, who owns a Jeepers Media. Jeepers Media was recorded at the label and no scam yet to still tell so many inspiring artists and rappers burst to apply to it. I was forced to work in the land and make them loads of dough. Ian was very rude and wouldn't let me just to me, but not to the rest of his staff, especially Simo, who of course worked for them Ian as a dancer. Simo had grown up to a poor man of the hills of work, and then of course he had came to America in search for a better life. All I got one way was a ticket to Babushka City. Ever been there? Well, I have. It's been pretty darn crap there, not gonna lie. Simo and I were forced to rent an apartment across the street from the Jeepers Media. Ian would also like to make it up to its 3 o'clock in the morning in order to start our rituals. Ian never slept and always stayed awake, even during the darn night when the people will finally say cheese. Hey, I didn't dog the shot. Oh dear, it seems that I got a tad bit distracted. I apologize profusely for that. Anyways, I haven't spoken to Ken or Binky in months. Last I heard, they were both talked up into some gangsters from Riverside. Meanwhile, I'm getting really sick of an Uncle Ian. He makes me and Simo drink 10 large cups of extra super duper strong coffee from Starbucks, which he makes us drink in a one gulp, and that we would have enough energy for the big shows, which Ian forces them to perform. One time, me and Simo deliberately ruined a massive concert by having Simo having a massive dump all over the trombone. Upon returning to the backstage, I said to Ian, "You may call us we are Ian. The day the show had been whirled and the world was spun around." Ian instead was grabbed by the face in his smelly hands before saying, "Dude, you're a spider that talks. People will come." And with that said, Simo and I were forced to be accompanied by Ian into Mike Morska's private condo over in France. What a douche. I'm sorry to say this, but that's where the story ends. I'm not sure what will happen next, as this whole thing has been hard on us, but most of us all Simo and I were half crazed by Ian with his zany antics. However, a part of me wants to think that no matter what, until the Uncle Ian finally gets what's coming to him, and what's happened to Mr. Lopart, and I have no doubt will happen to him as well. Farewell now, my friends. It's time for time for dinners. And that, my little pretties, was Mr. Lopart's Sadness, a handy Mandy Lost episode funny pasta written by Matthew Bumford. Matthew Bumford, I want to thank you so much for writing this story. Now, let's get on with the story itself. I absolutely thought this story was actually really good. Which it is good in my opinion. Like, it is funny, Matthew Bumford. I have to say, you did a pretty good job with this story, Matthew Bumford. I could definitely say the story was absolutely amazing. It's really, really, really funny. Like, it's really funny in my opinion. Like, there's a lot of good concept to this, you know? I actually love the fact that, you know, Mr. Lopart, yeah, I do feel bad for him in this story. I'm gonna be honest. I do feel bad for Mr. Lopart in this story. Oh my goodness. I felt so bad for him, but the story itself was absolutely funny. You know, the fact that the spider goes in the house, and, you know, here's the thing. I know a lot of people really don't like spiders, so I've had to kill these 2 spiders yesterday in my den. in my house, so I'm gonna have to clean my den out to see if I can find any more spiders, because oh my goodness. Spiders are normally really ugly, but cartoon spiders are something I really enjoy. Real spiders, I find them ugly, depending on the what kind it is. There's really ugly ones out there. I'm definitely gonna say right now. Even poisonous ones are the ugliest. Just thought, I would get it out there. But I thought this story was actually really good. Like, the grammar of this story was absolutely beautiful, and the sentence structure worked out nice. And the paragraph structuring, and the sentence structuring, the storyline, everything about it was just flat out amazing. Now, I'm going to say right now that I haven't seen Handy Mandy in a long time, so I believe I used to watch the show when I was, like, really younger, and and it was a really good show. Like, I'm going to say right now is that I loved Handy Mandy when I was a kid. I honestly really do like it as a young kid. I actually found Handy Mandy to be a really fun show when I was younger. And for some people who don't like it, that's fine. I don't really have a problem with people who don't like it. I actually found it to be rather good. Now, here's the thing. I actually found this episode to be rather funny. And I'm looking on... Oh, wow. I just found like a Handy Mandy Family Guy parody of it. I think I'm going to have to watch that one. That's actually really funny. But the story itself was absolutely amazing, and I could definitely say right now is that this was actually pretty funny, in my opinion. Matthew Bumford, I gotta have to say, you did a pretty good job on this story. Like, you did absolutely amazing at this story, and that is a really good thing, is that this story was absolutely funny and awesome at the same time. I do like the characters in Handy Mandy. They were absolutely funny, in my opinion. I remember I used to watch Handy Mandy a lot when I was younger. Well, I watch other shows, but Handy Mandy was one of the good ones. I know some people say he's kind of like a ripoff of Bob the Builder. I just seriously don't know why that's the case. I think I did see a few people saying, "Oh, Bob the Builder ripoff is Handy Mandy." Well, I don't think it is. Well, it kind of has some of the similarities, but not really. So I guess that's kind of one thing positive I could say why I like it, but I don't understand why people say it's a ripoff of it. Like, if people don't like it, that's totally fine. That's their opinion. I don't have any problems with people's opinions, but I could definitely say right now that the concept was just amazing, and the grammar was really good, along with the storyline, and everything about it was just flat out good, in my opinion. It was really well done and amazing. It was really funny, too, I can definitely say. I'm gonna have to watch Handy Mandy, the episode, the Family Guy one, even though I haven't seen Handy Mandy in years. But the thing about the newer Handy Mandy episodes nowadays, I don't know what it is, but I think it's just not the same as as it was. But it was a pretty good show in my opinion. But it was really funny in my opinion too. Like, it was really funny. I absolutely love this story. There was definitely lots of time and effort into this story. So I'm going to say right now, and like I always continue to say, this is simply my own personal opinion. And if you disagree with me, that's really fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions regards to these creepypastas or funny pastas, whatever you prefer to call it. And this is simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of this story would have to be a 10 out of 10. Just amazing. Well done. I really love this story. And I do feel bad for Mr. Lopart too. So I just thought, I'll get it out there. I feel bad for him, so I'm just gonna say, I really do feel bad for him, so. But anyways, this story was actually really good. Even though it was sad at certain parts, but it was still pretty good. Like, I could definitely say it was pretty good. But I still feel bad for, Mr. Lopart, in my opinion, too. Even though I wasn't really that crazy on him, I still feel bad for him, though, but the story itself was absolutely amazing, and that's definitely a positive that I could definitely say what I like about this. Now, anyways, what did you all think about this funny pasta or curry pasta? Whatever you guys prefer to say this. Did you guys enjoy it? Did you guys not? Also, what have you have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section down below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode, and if you're brand new here to this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. And don't forget to ring the notification bell when I upload, so then you guys will not get a chance to miss an upload. And as always, Please roll the outro because I'm out of here, and I will be seeing you all in the next video. Peace out.